Good day, my name is Bluesuit and today I'll be going over my review of the top-down action-packed story-driven cowboys and cults adventure RPG known as Weird West. In Weird West, you've been captured by a group of shadowy characters who are forcing you to live through the journeys of 5 inhabitants of a strange occult frontier known simply as the West. Very little is revealed to you as the game opens and you're thrust into the life of bounty hunter Jane Bell as she grapples with family tragedy and decides how far she'll go for justice. These 5 journeys initially always feel jarring to jump into as you're trying to get your feet wet with each new character, but slowly over time their stories wind together in a really unique way. Along each journey, Weird West offers the player countless opportunities for choice, both in combat and dialogue. These choices aren't always cut and dry between good and evil either, and it could be the difference between life or death down the line. Most actions feel consequential as each life you save could create a lifelong friend who rushes into a gunfight hours later to save you from certain doom. Likewise, it's just as easy to create vendettas against characters who will seek you out later in the game for revenge, and many of these choices will even persist after you've moved on to another character's journey. When I first started, I played Weird West like any other RPG, helping out fellow townsfolk and spending plenty of time checking the local bounty board. The issue I ran into was that every bounty that I'd brought in alive created a vendetta with that person that I knew I'd have to face later on down the line. These friends, enemies, and your general reputation play a large part in how the game world is constantly shifting with your actions and how people treat you. There's a refreshing amount of freedom here where you can choose to rob and kill every single character in the game, or none of them at all, and still be able to make it through all the twists and turns of the story. The gameplay in Weird West has just as much freedom, but it's where some of the game's cracks begin to show. The game's controls aren't necessarily bad, but there's definitely a learning curve to get past, as fumbling with them can cause more than a few deaths. And this issue definitely bleeds into the menus as well, with many of them being awkward to navigate when you're trying to sift through bodies to grab their loot. Even worse still is Weird West's AI. There's a lot of little bugs with enemy pathing that can get them stuck in their patrol routes, easily fixed by a quick save and reload. However, your recruitable companions also suffer from this poor AI, and I found that it was often better to just play through alone or only use them as an extra pair of saddlebags. When it's time to fight, as with many real-time tactics games, here you have the option to approach fights in multiple ways, from silently killing everyone, gunning them all down, or playing the pacifist. Additionally, you can slow down time at no cost to more precisely control timing in fights. And if things go really south, you can quick save and load anytime enemies aren't fighting you or actively looking for you. There were more than a few reused levels, but their design was overall really effective in providing me with lots of ways to engage foes with things like environmental effects, like how I could throw a barrel of oil to coat a hallway and then douse it in fire when enemies came around the corner looking for me. There are even some really nice weather elements that were fun to play around, like lightning strikes or tornadoes that would damage foes, or how rain fills up water buckets so you can drink and heal from them. Outside of the environment, each character has a skill tree with a few unique skills and a bunch of general skills to grab that completely reset when you move on to another journey. Perks, which are similar to skills, are passive abilities that carry over between these journeys to give you more of a sense of actual progression. There are no experience points in Weird West, however. Instead, you'll be looking around the game world to find points for these skill trees lying around on the ground or in any of the million containers to search throughout the game world. The loot system in Weird West is actually one of my biggest gripes about the game. There is loot everywhere, and getting your character to stand in the right position to open a container can be tedious after checking a couple hundred barrels. On top of this, you really don't have that much inventory space to begin with, which can't be upgraded. So what you have to do is move your inventory to your horse or to your companions, and then when you're at the store, you have to sell your goods, transfer your companion stuff back to your backpack, sell that, and repeat. And shop inventories don't really overlap, so you have to sell your medical supplies to the doctor and your guns to the gunsmith and so on. It's a cumbersome system to say the least, and you're better off not picking stuff up at all because in the end the loot is pretty lackluster anyway. There's a very slim chance that you're gonna find something that's better than what you're already using, and when you do, it's just an item with a higher damage number, and that's it. You can also choose to upgrade your weapons instead of buying new ones, but in the end, there's no real difference. It's a system that gets better the more you ignore it and doesn't really measure up to the rest of the game. You can pick up Weird West right now on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox for $40, and while it's a solid overall experience, it doesn't quite measure up to that price tag yet. There is a surprising amount of content available, with your first playthrough taking anywhere from 25 to 50 hours depending on your involvement with the side content. And even a lot of replayability if you're keen on going through it again with a more murderous or passive mindset. However, there are really two things that are holding it back. For starters, so much of the game just feels messy, from the AI, the controls, and awkward bits of combat that wears players' enthusiasm down over time. And secondly, there are just too many other games that do what Weird West does better, with the exception of the story, which is really good even without voice acting. It tries to walk the line between real-time tactics and a true RPG, and kind of comes up as a shallow experience on both ends, with the gameplay inconsistencies that you see from bad RTTs and weak character progression that you see from bad RPGs. That being said, there are certainly enough good points to still warrant a playthrough if it comes on sale, so I'm valuing Weird West at $34, and I do recommend it if you're a fan of real-time tactics games and you've been looking for something with a bit more open world to sink your teeth into. I hope you enjoy this review of Weird West. Come see me on Twitch where you can watch our reviews in progress. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Until next time.